Hello again. Well, recently I shared a video regarding my experience with mental illness, as a lot of you know. Um, well, it went viral on Facebook with almost 1,000 views, and that is like 10 times more than I ever even imagined. So I guess Mike Lee Hugh was right when he said that it was a very important testimony. It's a testimony that needed to be heard. But to be honest, that is just one part of my history. I've always seen it as three separate periods. The most important of which, in my opinion, is what I've already shared. Mental illness is something that is really a hot topic these days, and people need to know exactly how you can deal with it and steps you need to take and things like that. So I appreciate everyone who responded to that video and watched that video. It blows my mind how many people it reached. Right now, what I'm going to share, this is regarding my relationship with my brother. He passed away a year ago, actually about 13 months ago, to be exact. Shortly before his passing, we reconciled, and we became the brothers that we should have been from the start. That is the relationship that I tend to focus on. All this other stuff happened. Yes, it's in the past. Yes, I'm talking about it today because I think it's very important out there. There are people out there who are dealing with these issues and think, oh, no one is going to believe me, or no one is going to think that this is really abuse. They're just going to think, it's brothers fighting or whatever. I know that some of the things that I'm going to share are going to be hard, especially for those who know Tommy. It's going to be extremely hard to hear some of this. You may find it hard to swallow. You might find it hard to believe, but it really doesn't change things. Tommy was the one known for telling tall tales and telling lies, even when he didn't have to. Not me. And I couldn't make this stuff up even if I tried. I do ask that if you watch this and you know my parents, please do not mention anything that's in this video. They know that they have ideas of some of what happened. They don't know specifics, and all it would do is make them think that they were inferior parents, when in actuality, it had nothing to do with them. I mean, really, it didn't. There's nothing they could have done. There's nothing they could have done to stop it. So I would really appreciate you not mentioning it to them, because I don't want to hurt them. That's not the point of this video. Because of Tommy's lying, I detest lying, and I do not like it in my household. I would much rather you tell me the truth than just feed me a bunch of bull. That's just how I am. Some of these things are going to be considered graphic, and the reason they are graphic is because I want to get my point across. My very being is about being transparent. So if you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an honest answer. Whether you think it's the answer you want to hear or not, that's fine. But that's not who I am. I'm just sharing this to paint a picture of kind of what my childhood was like. Tommy didn't start great, not even close, but he finished well, and that's what matters. And that's how I choose to remember him. I share this story so those who are going through similar situations feel like they have a voice, and that's the point. This is going to be a rather long video compared to the last one, because the script I've written down is about 2.5 times as long. And if you see me and you didn't watch the last video and see me looking down and saying stuff, it's because I have written this out, because if I don't, I'm going to go on tangents, and this thing's going to be an hour long. We don't want that. We want to get to the point. So when I look back on my childhood from the 80s and 90s, early 90s, most of the memories I have aren't good ones. They just aren't. Tommy was always almost twice my size, sometimes even bigger than that. He took advantage of this very often. Several years we lived in Southern California. Our parents had to commute for their jobs, and of course their commute was quite a while. We were left home alone for hours without any attention every afternoon. Tommy saw me as the favorite. Whether or not that was true, really, it doesn't matter, because that's how he perceived me. He was a rebellious child and I was not. So that might have been why I was seen as the favorite because I did whatever I was asked to do. He never cared about consequences for his actions. He just wanted to test the boundary over and over again. I was a much more compliant child. I never got into trouble of any kind. Not like he did, anyway. Why? Was it my Christian upbringing? I wish that were true. I really wish that were true. But instead, I saw what he did, and it made me think, I don't want any part of that. I am not interested. That has no appeal to me. I mean, I grew up in church and I lived the good Christian life, but wasn't saved until I was 15. So it's like it was pretty much an act. But just seeing what he did and what his actions caused, I didn't want to be a part of that. Did I do things that would have gotten me in trouble? Sure. And anytime my brother caught me doing something that would get me in trouble, he would lord it over my head. He'd basically make me his personal servant. And you say, what? I said, go get me a drink. Why don't you go get a drink yourself? Oh, I'm going to tell mom and dad what you did. And I lived in such a fear of them finding out some things I did, even though looking back, they were nothing. A lot of them were nothing. I just thought they were huge. And he made it seem like they were huge. I mean, he would know he's the one in trouble all the time. But my parents thought when those things happened, I was just being nice. I never was nice to Tommy on purpose. Trust me. He knew how important that was to me to obey them and follow their lead and be the best person I could be. And so he milked that. He milked that for all it was worth. But eventually I found out on some of these things he was going ahead and rattling on me anyway. He had already told them. And then that ended part of his arsenal. But of course that was a minor thing compared to the daily rituals. I mean, it just was. And some will say when they hear this, all brothers fight, and what happened to me is just part of growing up with an older brother. Well, first of all of my therapists, all the therapists I've ever heard will tell you how wrong that statement is. Second, you probably will agree with me and agree with them once you've heard the details. As I said before, Tommy was twice my size. He loved that advantage and he used it as much as he could. Here's some of the examples of what I went through on an almost daily basis. Now, remember that part, almost daily basis. And the times that it didn't happen was times that he was somewhere else. He liked to pin me to the ground. He would put his knees on the inside of my elbow so I couldn't move. And then he would put his knees, and then he'd get it to where I could not move and could not do anything to retaliate. He would force my mouth open. He would spit in my mouth and force me to swallow it. Think about that. He would punch me in the chest over and over again until he got bored. Not because I stopped him. I couldn't. I wasn't even close to the right size to stop him. But it wasn't until he got bored that it was over. He beat the crap out of me just because he could. And my dad, he tried to help. He might have suspected one time something was going on. He said, if he does anything to you, you tell me and I'll stop it. No, you won't. Because as soon as I even thought of that, he let me know in no uncertain terms that, hey, you do that and it's going to be twice as bad the next day for you. So whatever I get, you're going to get even worse. I was scared. I mean, he did other things that didn't seem like much to some people, but understand they were torture to someone like me. He showed up once in a while when I was around friends, and you would think, oh, well, he's trying to hang out with you. Nope. He was there for one reason, and he wanted to become the center of attention. He took over all conversations and did everything he could to make my friends follow everything he did and completely ignore me. He did this way too many times to count. And one other thing I didn't realize was happening until I got older was how his friends, what he felt about his friends, how they treated me. If a friend ever showed me, and this happened very early on, if a friend of his ever showed me the least bit of kindness, he never, and I mean never, spoke to that person again. Never. He would say all kinds of things about them, behind their backs and everything else. They had no idea. And it didn't matter how good of friends they were. Some of these were close friends that they treated me decently, and that was it. They were gone. And there were a lot of other things I'm not going to talk about that were terrible. And these are all things that you would never want a child to go through. And he would tell me things. He would say, you're going to be this and you're going to be that. And it's just the kind of thing that, he drilled it into me. And there are all kinds of things that he told me I was going to be or wasn't going to be that just, it was horrible. And I was so worried that I would become exactly what he said I would be, or wouldn't come exactly what he said I wouldn't be. How did this affect me? Well, more than most people probably know. My grades suffered as a result. I was used to getting straight A's. I never reached that level after this, which was about fourth grade is when this kind of really started kicking in, and I never got straight A's again, ever. There were other contributing factors to that, not just him, but home life wasn't helping it. I also started to get into small skirmishes at school. And when I say skirmishes, I guess they could be fights or whatever, but there weren't really, because they lasted like 2 seconds and they were nothing. I punched quite a few people in the face that really didn't deserve it. And if you ask me why I did that, as I recently got asked by someone, if you ask me what was the cause of this, I have no idea. Something stupid, I can guarantee you that, because it was stupid. I was an angry kid, and I let that anger control a lot of my actions outside the home. And I'm ashamed of those instances, and I've done my best to apologize and make amends to those I have had the chance to do that. Understand that life at home was causing me to have a lot of anger, but that doesn't excuse what I did. It never excused my actions. I made bad choices, and I have no one to blame but myself. I am so thankful for those who have forgiven me. And this is a shout out to you, Jason Fetterman. I told you I was going to give you a shout out. And I'm glad we've moved on from those instances. I'm truly humbled by their responses and their forgiveness. They don't have to do that. And I really do appreciate that. It means a lot to me. I did have friends during this time. Don't get me wrong. There were friends that helped me keep my sanity. I will say Steve Childress made me laugh all the time. He did. He was always great for making me laugh. And Paul Williams, who lived down the street from me, he helped me gain my love for comic books, which helped me get my mind off my circumstances. That was my escape, were comic books, and I loved them. But most of all, I want to thank DJ Sotelo and his family for making me feel loved and supported when everything else around me was a nightmare. They had no idea what a nightmare it was. But I am so thankful for that. And DJ and I have been best friends forever. But I am always appreciative of that because I was a part of the family. It's just how it was. And I so appreciated that and still appreciate that over the years. I was so glad this past February to get to come see everybody. That was like one of the best things that ever happened to me. There are countless other things that happen that I will not share here. Not everyone needs to know these things, Sexual abuse was not a part of this. I guess even Tommy had his limits at the time. He did do one thing positive. He did give me my taste in music. And without that, there's no way I can't think of any way I would ever become a Christian, because there's music that I was exposed to, Christian music, that just really, really spoke to me and really caused my heart to be less hardened over time. And also don't think I didn't have any good relationships in my family. My parents were great. They always were. They weren't perfect. None of us are. But my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, my cousins, they have always been great, and they have always helped me through a lot of these situations, even though a lot of these things, they had no idea that they were helping me through. So I've always been appreciative of that. I have also had great support in church as well, even when I wasn't living the best life. But this is one toxic relationship there's this one toxic relationship that, overshadowed everything. It really was. But after all these things had happened, after the bad blood and animosity, there was really one thing I ever wanted out of life. I wanted my brother's approval, and that sounds silly when you hear it. You wanted that guy to approve? I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. I wanted his approval. To look at my life, my wife, my kids, and tell me he was proud of me. Needless to say, Tommy and I were estranged for many years. We rarely saw each other once I got married. And he saw my kids only a handful of times. After 2001, we saw each other once or twice, I think. But in 2018, Tommy was diagnosed with several forms of cancer. Did that change things? Nope. I saw him at the hospital, but only for a few minutes. The following summer, Devin Venable suggested I go see him. After hearing some of the stuff that went on, he understood if I didn't want to. My flesh was rejoicing that he was getting what he deserved. But I knew that wasn't right. I contacted him and found out where he was, contacted Devin and found out where he was staying. And I went to see him. I sat on the porch with him for hours just talking. He knew he had screwed up my life. He started to apologize and he started to cry, which is totally not him. I told him not to worry about it. We only needed to focus on what happened at that moment and what happened beyond that. The past was over and done with. He couldn't believe what I would say that. I mean, the fact is, I couldn't believe I said it. In that one moment, I forgave him. In that moment, all the hatred, and yes, I said hatred, all the hurt, all the junk, it was gone. It was over and done with. We saw each other at least once a week after that, which is more than we had seen each other in 2 decades. And before he passed, he told me how proud he was of me and how great my wife and my kids were. And at the time, it didn't even dawn on me that he had given me the one thing I always wanted, his approval. Forgiveness is a wonderful thing. It changed my life in 1989 when I accepted Christ as my Savior, and it changed my life again in 2019. I was holding Tommy's hand when he passed. I never pictured doing that at any point in my life. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a technical problem, so I've fixed it now, and we're going to finish this off. Abuse is terrible in any form. I should have spoken up as a child. I was too scared, though. I want you to understand that if you or someone else you know is being abused in any way, you need to tell somebody. Tell someone now. You do not have to live that way. You really don't. And also, not everyone needs to reconcile, as Tommy and I did. Do not put yourself in a situation where you could be harmed or someone you love could be harmed. Anyone could be harmed, for that matter. Tommy had several forms of cancer, so he was just skin and bones. There was really nothing that he could do to me. That was a moot point at that time. So, as I did in my last video, I shared my story so that it might help others who are victims of abuse. It takes on many forms, and sometimes people write it off, as many did with me. That brothers are supposed to fight. That what happened to me is normal, which it's not. Never make light of someone else's circumstances. Please don't. You don't know what they're going through. So never make light of it. What you think is no big deal might be hell on earth for someone else. Did I go through some hard times? Yes. But I refuse to let that define me. I am a Christian. I am a husband, and I am a father. I'm a son. That is how God defines me, and that is how I define myself, because that's how he defines me. I hope this story has helped you in some way. I know that it may seem like this was very matter of fact and very difficult, not very difficult to say or write. But in all honesty, when you're doing something like this, when you're writing from your own experience and those emotions are still, they've healed, but it still brings stuff up, it's not easy to do that. I'm not trying to bring that as, oh, look at me, be proud of me because I did that. No, that's not it. That's not it. I'm just letting you know that these are very real emotions I have. I do not, even though it's looking back, talking about them isn't the easiest thing. So, but that's okay. My goal here is to help other people, not to help myself. That's not it. I go to therapy for stuff like that and do things that, I do other things in my life to help with that. This is solely to help someone else who may be harboring a grudge or being, misused by many people. You just don't have to go through it alone. And if anyone has any questions, they just need somebody to talk to, I'm available on Facebook all the time. I get Messenger, I get messages on my phone all the time. I don't mind talking to people about this because I want people to know that it's okay, that everyone goes through things and we all go through things. But people need to know that there's hope out there and that there's people who understand what you're going through. So I put that out there. But as I did with my last video, I'd like to pray. So, Papa, I promise I'm going to close my eyes. Father, Lord, I just pray that you take this video and whoever needs to see it, that they will get what they need from it, Father, and that it will help someone in some way. If it just helps one person, it is worth it. So I know that I went through all that stuff, and I know there's a reason. The reason is because I can help people who have had the same issues. And Lord, I just pray that you would use me for that, and that I would know what the right thing to say is. I'm not perfect, and I don't claim to be, but I am all about loving other people. So, Lord, just pray that whoever hears this, that they'll be able to act on it. And Lord, that you would just give them peace in their situation. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I hope I wouldn't say enjoyed, because enjoyed is the wrong word about this, but I hope you got, if you need something, that you got what you needed from this video. There's at least one segment to go. I do have another video that I'm going to release soon. It is not going to be on the same level as far as emotional turmoil and mental health and things like that. That stuff's some hard stuff to talk about. What I will be talking about is my back issues and what my walk has been through that. It hasn't been easy, but trust me, it'll be a whole lot easier to talk about. So because a lot of people who are dealing with hurt, who are dealing with illness, not just mental illness, but dealing with other things, they need to know that that there are people out there who understand. So I will be releasing that video soon, and I just pray that y'all be blessed until the next time we talk, and we'll catch you later. Thanks.